Welcome in, guys, to the Full Force Fathers podcast. We are so glad to have you back alongside Dave. I am Brett. It's great to be here today, Dave. How you doing?
Doing great. Back from vacation. Things are good. Summer's great. I'm in a good spot. How about you?
Great. It's hot. It's humid, but we are excited. We're calling this our midsummer episode, right? So baseball has the All-Star game. They call it the Midsummer Classic. This is our version of the Midsummer Classic. Like today, we're going to talk about where we've been, what we've been up to, what's new in the Full Force Fathers space. So, we're really excited to bring this episode. It's going to be a little off the cuff, just kind of talking about ourselves a little bit and what's going on in the in our daily lives in the world. So, with that, Dave, I'm pretty pumped up. You've been up to a lot of things this summer, or what?
I've been up to a ton this summer. It's been great, man.
Yeah, no.
You got to enjoy it. You just have to enjoy the summer when the kids are around. Honestly, this is the time, man. They're still young. They want to spend time with us. We're getting to that point where they're not going to want to spend as much time with us anymore. So I'm trying to soak it all up.
I know, tell me about it. Madison will be 12 in just a few weeks, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't even think about it. And just as I say that too, it's right around the corner with Kendall. I got Caroline, who's 9, like Kendall. So great, it's just, it's. But before we get too off topic, I want to start with a Bible verse. I actually read this morning in Madison's daily scripture journal that she has, and it comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 58. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. And I interpret it, and I'm actually kind of taking a little bit of how I read it in her journal this morning. And it's just about being, fully committed, being all in, right? Give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord. Give yourselves fully to the work of fatherhood. This is not, being a dad is not a part-time job. And, that's what it is at Full Force Fathers. We are living a full force life. We are all in dads. We are not part-time dads. We are not, weekend dads or after work dads. We are full-time dads, and being a dad is a full-time job. We can't dip our toe in the water. We have to jump right in and swim when it comes to being parents. If you want a sports analogy, like look at all the all-time greats, right? They're fully committed to their craft. You're not the best basketball player in the world because you only pick up a basketball once a week, or the best gymnast, or the best, you name it, the best businessman. You are fully committed. So at Full Force Fathers, that's what we are, right? So that Bible verse means full, all-in commitment to being a dad, to God, to whatever, however you want to interpret it, Dave. Any thoughts on that verse?
Yeah, I like the way you interpreted it. To me, it really takes a faith component. It's pouring yourself into the Lord and to the Lord's work, and knowing that what you're doing is going to be rewarded, and that the Lord is always there for you if you're doing the right things. And the work that you're putting in is not in vain and is not a waste. It is powerful. And what you're doing, like you said in your interpretation as a father, is powerful. And what you're doing is going to make an impact on your kids and on you. So that's the way I sort of see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that, that's our Bible verse, guys. It kind of just ties into our values, right? Just be all in. Be all in with your fitness. Be all in with your finances, not just your faith. Be all in as a dad. 100% fully committed, and like you said, the work you put in as a father is not in vain. The same as when you put with Lord, you're not in vain. It's for something. There's meaning to it. There's purpose behind it. So let's jumpstart into our midsummer classic here, Dave. I want to know. Yeah. We're going to kind of go off the cuff. Everyone that's listening, watching on YouTube, listening on podcast platforms, we're going to kind of go off the cuff here. Dave and I have both, outside of recording our podcast, and putting a daily show out once a week, we do have lives outside of this, even though we both would love to make Full Force Fathers our entire life. But I have just been dying to get the skinny on your road trip to Nashville. I know that's been the big thing for you guys. It's been planned for a while. You're driving across the country to Nashville. You're staying at a KOA when you don't camp. I love to camp. If my energy level is 12 or 15 or 20 right now, it is, because I want to hear all about it, man. I want to know all about the road trip, all about Nashville, all about sleeping in a cabin, all these things that you're not about.
Yeah, if there's one thing that's different between Brett and I, it's the way we like to vacation. So when I found out, and he always said this, "Oh, Dave, you're really bougie." I didn't really get that until I just went on this trip, and I realized just how bougie I am, I guess. And but I mean, you love being in a camper. You love rolling around the country with the camper behind you. And listen, I appreciate what your passion is and your love. For me, man, I'll take that 5-star resort anytime.
Yeah. Listen, as you know, I talk to Dave quite often, and man, the phone calls I was getting from him, every time he would call me, the first thing I would say to him is, "Why are you so miserable?" That was literally the first thing I would say to him on the phone, because you could just, it sounded like he just saw a ghost, or it was like he was experiencing death. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are you so miserable?
I was experiencing the camping life for the first time as an adult. Now, I did it as a kid, and I have fond memories of it. When I was a kid, and we used to camp, and my parents had a fifth wheel, and we would go to different places, and that was great. And I do have great memories of that. But as an adult, I haven't done it. I don't find as much enjoyment in it. Now, that being said, I didn't stay in a camper. I was staying in a cabin at the KOA. So it wasn't like I wasn't fully immersed, but I got to enjoy some of the good parts of camping, but I also got to see some of the not so great so great things.
Some of the things that Dave considers not so great. Listen, camping gets a bad rap. Campgrounds can get a bad rap for some of the fellow campers that you see, not campers as in the actual camping mechanism that you sleep in, but the people, you know, and it is true. You do run into some rougher crowd, you know, some rougher people, but you know, to each their own. And you also got to remember, like, this is no knock on Tennessee. You also were in like East Tennessee. I mean, like, Central Eastern Tennessee. It's, you know, there's some rural areas around there. So you're seeing people that you're not probably accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, and what I was amazed to see, right, is this eclectic group of people that come together, because you've got the people that come in to this campground. Now, Nashville in the summer, for those who haven't been there, it's super hot, like upper 90s, and the humidity level is through the roof, which I hate humidity. But you've got the people that come in that kind of weather, and they sleep in a tent, okay, on a campsite in a tent. You've got the people that, you know, are pulling campers, smaller campers, all the way up to people that are driving $1 million coaches with $75,000 Jeeps pulling behind, and motorcycles, and, you know, all these different things. Like, what an interesting group of people that all come together. And as my dad said while we were there, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I kept laughing about it. It's a lifestyle, but it is a lifestyle. And maybe it's not the lifestyle for me, but it's obviously the lifestyle for a lot of people. And it's interesting that many different people can all come together in the same place and kind of partake in the same thing.
Yeah, they just kind of coexist. It actually, you know, a good analogy is a campground is like it is America, right? It's a melting pot. What you just described as a melting pot. There are people from all ages, all shapes, all sizes, all colors, all backgrounds. Like you said, there's $1 million Newmars backed into spots, and then there's Ricky Tikki Bobby Wobbin, the little tiny ones that, you know, the wheels are half falling off and stuff. And actually, believe it or not, you know, not that campgrounds are trying to clean up some of the riffraff, because there is some riffraff at campgrounds. There's no doubt about it. But there are campgrounds now that have a age limit on the actual camper that you can pull into their campground. We've done a lot of camping over the last couple of years, and there is campgrounds that have asked me, what year is your RV? Because they wouldn't allow anything older than 15 years. And I'm like, I guess that's one way to kind of clean it up in a sense. But like you said, it doesn't bother me. I just met a guy in Shenandoah who, if you looked at him, you're like, dude, this dude is where did this guy come from? He ended up being the spot next to us. Dude, we still text. Like, I just texted him yesterday, you know? And he was just new to the camping thing. He didn't know anything about it. He had just gotten a camper and found a spot and whatnot. But, you know, back to Nashville. Let's focus on Nashville for a while.
Let's do it.
You know, I know you've stopped in Dallas. No one cares about the Cowboys. You stopped there. Okay.
Oh, we're gonna talk about that. That's part of the road trip. We're talking about.
Okay, but I want to specifically focus on Nashville, because what you did is something that I don't hear a lot of. You did Nashville with kids.
Yeah.
Tell me about the experience with kids in Nashville, because I know it's like a party city. It's like Las Vegas East. It's like, give me some tips, some things you shouldn't do with kids, some you could do with kids. Like, give me a little from a kid friendly rundown of Nashville.
Very different with kids. Okay. Now I was there once by myself. I was down there in Nashville training for something. So I had gone downtown, and downtown is Broadway. It really, that's what people look at. Downtown is Broadway. That's what people think. It's all the honky tonks. It's Jason Aldean's place. It's all those types of restaurants and bars. There's live music all the time. It's super loud. If you're going down there with kids, I'd certainly say do it earlier in the day. Early in the day is better. There was a lot of drunk people, a lot of homeless people that were going down through the area. At night, not a good scene to bring young kids to. Really busy, uncomfortable. I wouldn't bring my own kids down there that time of day. I wouldn't suggest anybody else do it. It's a little crazy. There's drunk people that are just kind of chasing people down the street, and it wasn't a good scene. Now, that being said, everybody thinks of Nashville as that. They've got, boot shops and restaurants and bars all in that area, but there's so much more outside of that, which was great. There's some unbelievable restaurants in town that were awesome. We hit a couple great breakfast spots that were amazing, and the kids loved it. We went to the Country Music Hall of Fame, which was downtown, which was a blast. The kids enjoyed that. We did too. A little pricey, I think, for what you got, but it was still cool to learn about the history of country music and see it. And an interesting point, and I'll get back around to some of these other things too, but when we're at the Country Music Hall of Fame, we went to the Grand Ole Opry, which I'll dive into in a little bit. The Grand Ole Opry is amazing. But there was a band that played, and I forget the name of the band, but they had to be, they were in their 80s, these guys. They were old. And they played some of these songs that they were known for, and they jogged the memory, like, okay, cool. When we went to the Country Music Hall of Fame, the kids wanted to sit down and watch this video that was playing. It was an old video of things. And it was this same band playing the same song, but they were like 20 years old. And the kids heard it, and they're like, you'd see them perk up and listen. And then they turned around where Casey and I were, and they're like, is this them? And we're like, yeah, it's the same guy. And one of the guys made all these funny sounds with his cheeks. He was going like, with his cheeks during the thing. And Bryce just turns around. He's like, so it's like they put all these things together, and it was so fun. It was fun to kind of see that come to life, and that they were actually paying attention while we were there at some of the things, and they learned something, and that part was really cool. But Nashville as a whole, there's a lot of things you can do there. We did this walking bridge that no cars could go on. You just walk up, you walk over this river, you see the Tennessee Titans football stadium there. You got a great view of downtown on the back, just some really fun stuff. And then we did a lot outside of Nashville too. A little bit outside. We went to Franklin, Tennessee. We took an hour and a half drive to Kentucky. So there's different things close that you can do.
Yeah, that's good. And then the other thing I wanted to hit on, and this ties into our finance aspect of Full Force Fathers, you got to see your idol while you were there.
Dude, unbelievable experience. Yeah, we went to Franklin, Tennessee, one day. And we got to go to Ramsey headquarters. It's a new building. I had been down there before. The last time I was in Nashville, I was becoming a personal financial coach through his program. That's why I went down there. I had met him before. I went to his radio show while I was there. But this time he was in a new headquarters, brand new building. The building and the property is now worth over $200 million. He paid cash for it. Inspirational, needless to say, for me. I walk in. He was in town for the week, which I wasn't sure because it was the week leading up to July 4th. And sometimes he goes on vacation for long stretches in the summer, but he was there and it was awesome. And we got to tour his new building. They did a great job. I bought some new books that'll be hitting the reading material section of our show in the coming weeks, which is great. The kids got a chance to experience that. And it was fun because the whole drive there, they're like, who's Dave Ramsey? They're like, that name sounds familiar. And we're like, your chore chart that you fill out all the time and your bank of money? They're like, yeah. And they're like, this is from Dave Ramsey. And they're like, oh, yeah. And I was like, how about all those books you have? He wrote a series of books, junior books. Mm-hmm. And it's all about kids saving money. And I'm like, you know who wrote the junior books? And they're like, Dave Ramsey? And I was like, yeah. So then they were super excited about it. And we got to, during the commercial breaks, he comes out, introduces himself, shake hands, say hello. The kids were super excited at that point. We got to take a picture. So yeah, I was geeking out. I know you were texting me that day like this is probably the best part of your entire trip, and it was a lot of fun. It was great to kind of just experience that, and kind of show the kids a little bit more about it, about like what we're doing, why we're doing it, and like some of the, I had said to Casey and the kids when we were walking in, outside of close family like my dad, my mom, I can't think of another person who's been more inspirational, more impactful in my life than Dave Ramsey for what he's taught me about money and how he changed our entire lives. And now I get to do what we're doing here with Full Force Fathers and help spread, a message of living a debt-free life and the impact that can have on you as a father. So for me, like, that was awesome.
I couldn't, I knew for a fact you were going to be going there. I know you had the Corvette Museum already scheduled and things like that. But I have a feeling that was the second best part of your trip. I think the first part of your trip that topped everything is you got to see your dad. I know how close you are to your dad. I'm so close to my dad. We both have that experience where like our dads are our best friends. We talk to him every day. And I can't imagine, take all the camping out of it and all that other stuff that goes along with it, and just being able to spend a week with your dad, probably I had to imagine would be top of the list.
It was amazing. I mean, we planned this trip together. We kind of found a middle ground place that everybody hadn't been and wanted to check out. That was Nashville. And it was, man, it was awesome. Like, it was great. We spent so much time together just hanging out. I miss him already.
Yeah. It's funny because as those who listen, I talk to Dad's father or Dave's father on the phone. Like, I'll call him randomly and ask him a question every once in a while. And Dave's dad and I get along real well. And usually half of the time of our phone calls, we're just making fun of Dave for his dumb decisions and things like that. And we're going to get into that when we talk more about his road trip. Dave's going to explain to you how to not drive across the country. I'm going to explain to you how to drive across the country the correct way. But when I had talked to, I had called Kendall to wish her happy birthday. And while I was FaceTiming, Dave's dad grabs the phone and he said, "The only thing that's missing is you." And I'm like, yes, he likes me more than his own kid. I love it. And that's we have a good, good relationship. Dave's dad, Dave Fortin Sr. and I, we get along great. He's a guy that you can turn to when you need a question. And that's the whole thing about being a dad. Like this, that's why this episode ties into just fatherhood and in general. He's a guy that I can call, that I can trust, that's going to give me an answer to a question if I don't know the answer to that question, or he's going to give me a resource for that answer, or he's going to give me different options in the answer, So it made me happy knowing that even though you're terrible at road trips, it was great that you got to spend time with your father, because it makes you so happy when you get to see him,
Yeah, it was great. And you said it before, we went to the Corvette Museum up in Kentucky, Bowling Green, Kentucky. And I didn't realize it's the only place in the world that they make Corvettes is in Bowling Green. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get into the plant where they actually make them. But the museum was awesome, and getting a chance to experience that with him, because he's been a Corvette guy forever. He's had Corvettes his entire life. Getting to see him go through that was awesome.
Yeah,
that was really awesome.
Yeah,
so it was a fun experience.
Well, give me the skinny. Give me the lowdown on the drive. How fast did you drive? How many stops did you make? What way did you go? Just give me the rundown of how bad you did it.
How bad I did it. We did it great, man. It was awesome. We left at 2:30 on a Thursday afternoon, and the plan was to just hammer through the night the first night, because I mean, let's be honest. You've done the drive. There's nothing from here to Dallas that's, to me, worth stopping for. So I was like, I'm going to get the kids in the car. We're going to drive for a while. We ended up stopping for dinner. I had this grand plan, like we're going to leave early enough, 2:30, so that we could get to Dallas, Fort Worth the next morning, so that we could go to the stockyards. They have an early parade at the stockyards where the Longhorns come down the street. I was like, Bryce is going to love that. Kendall will find enjoyment in it. It'll be fun. We'll check the area out, whatever. So I wanted to leave early enough because I figured we'd find a nice place for dinner, hang out, and, then get the kids to sleep in the car. I drive through the night, and we land in Fort Worth the next morning. So we started driving. We're out in the middle of nowhere. Like, New Mexico, holy shit, there's nothing in New Mexico. And so we end up stopping at a Dairy Queen in the middle of nowhere. because it's the only place for food. It's getting late. The kids got to eat. Casey's starving. So we stop at this pull off, and it's got a Dairy Queen inside of it, and it's got a Dairy Queen grill. Never eaten a Dairy Queen grill before. So we go in. We're standing there. Kendall, what do you want? Bryce, what do you want? Bryce wants a hot dog. Cool, safe enough. Kendall wants a burger. Great. Casey's like, looks at me and she goes, what do you want? I'm looking around. Nothing. I'm good.
No, thank you.
I'm good. I'm good. She's like, you're not hungry? I was like, I'm hungry, but I'm good. She's like, okay. So she gets a salad. We're trying to eat good. She gets a salad with chicken on it, chicken tenders. And she comes out and to take a page out of the Impractical Jokers book. And Quinn, she had chicken tartare for dinner with her chicken tenders.
Yep.
And that was our first experience on the road trip. I was like, wow, this is terrific. So she was totally grossed out, didn't eat the dinner. It took us a while to get our money back because, of course, I was going to get the money back for it.
Yeah.
And we carried on, got the kids to kind of sleep in the car, just hammered through the night, driving through oil fields in the middle of Texas. I mean, like 24-hour-a-day operations. That was kind of cool. It kept me going. Sunflower seeds are amazing. They keep me awake. We finally get to Dallas-Fort Worth area, which was great. So I don't care what you say. I made it there. I made it there in time, and it was worth it. We got the kids out of the car in the morning. We had breakfast at a really cool spot in the middle of nowhere. Awesome breakfast in downtown Fort Worth. Every place we walked into, we were definitely the outcasts. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody's like, who the hell are these people, you know? So we get in, sit down, have our breakfast. Great. And then we took the kids to this amazing, huge park. They ran around for an hour. I got my first 45-minute workout in. It was great. And then we went to the stockyards, and that was awesome. And Bryce loved seeing the Longhorns. So did Kendall. She enjoyed it more than I thought she would. They had some cool shops there. We ate at a steakhouse for lunch. So that part was really cool. Have you been to the stockyards before?
Dallas Fort Worth is a good area. It's a good stock. Yeah, I've been to the stockyards. And I like, you can go in the arena that's right there. You know, they usually leave the arena open during the day. You can go in there, you can see the seats where they do the rodeo and the indoor rodeo and all that stuff. And there's all those steakhouses on the strip. And if you want to feel, like a rich person, walk into a couple of those corner leather stores and you really see some expensive leather stuff in there between saddles and boots and hats and belts and you name it. But Dallas Fort Worth is a cool place. We did camp there for a couple nights. It is a cool town. There is plenty of stuff to do there with kids. To jump back, and this is no knock on New Mexico or West Texas, but I've done that drive 7 or 8 times. There really is not anything there. So what you're saying, for those of you that listen, and we're kind of giving you a little roadmap if you guys are doing any travel in this summer. West Texas, there's really not a whole lot of stuff until you get to like Midland. And even then, there's not a whole lot until you get to, I think it's Stevensville or Stevenson. I'm not from Texas, but it gets you close to Dallas, to the outskirts. Then you start to see, houses and restaurants and Starbucks and all those good things. El Paso, El Paso it by is what I say when you go to El Paso. There's, and the comment on that was the second Impractical Jokers reference in this episode. The first one was Ricky Tikki Bobby Wobbin, which would have been Joe from the name game. But no, Dallas is a cool city. It really is. There's a lot. It's a big city. It's huge, but there is stuff to do there. There's tons of stuff to do there. I know you went to the Cowboy Stadium. I've never been there. You've been there more than once. This time you brought the kids there.
Yeah, so this was a surprise for the kids. Bryce, he was talking about. He's like, Dad, if we're going to Dallas, can we see the stadium? I want to see where the Cowboys play. And I was like, it's not a bad idea. So I looked at the map, and Arlington is on the way through. So you got Fort Worth, Arlington, Dallas out. So I was like, this might work. And our plan was to get to Little Rock. That was going to be our first stop for the night, which was another about 6 hours from Dallas. So, or was it? I think it was 5 hours from Dallas. So we had a bit of a hike to go. So I was like, if we do the stockyards early, we get that done, get lunch, let's get on the road. We can get to Arlington. We can do a drive to the stadium. But then I started thinking, how cool would it be for the kids to actually get inside the stadium and see the stadium? So, I've been to the new Cowboy Stadium for the Final Four. I got to see UConn win the national championship there, but I've never been there for a football game and seen the field in person. So I was like, let's do a tour. So Casey's like, yeah, let's do it. So we get there. I mean, we come in hot with like 3 minutes to spare before this next tour starts. And if we didn't catch that one, we probably had to get on the road and go. So I'm on my phone, right? They're calling the people for the tour on, and I'm trying to book it on my phone at the bottom of the escalator. And I'm going through and punching in my debit card, and, here we go. And I get it, and I walk up to the escalator and show it to the guy. And he's like, all right, on you go. So here we go up the escalator. And we get to the top of the escalator, and you're on like the main mezzanine level, and you look out over the field. And just like the look, the kids were like, wow, like this is amazing, like huge inside. So we got to do a tour. It was awesome. We got to go all the way up basically to the ceiling, to the top level, and check out the field from there. We got to go into the Cotton Bowl offices. We got to go into the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader locker room. We got to go into the Cowboy locker room. The kids got to take pictures in front of Dak's locker. I got some good pictures in there and of the stadium. But the best part was that we got to spend 20 minutes on the field.
That's awesome.
Running around, playing. Like, I mean, dude, it was – I know you hate the Cowboys, but it was fucking awesome. And, like, Bryce and Kendall are running around like, Dad, tackle us on the field. And, like, we're just running and, like, they just don't care.
Yeah.
It was – you could do whatever you wanted. People had footballs out there they were chucking around. They were kicking field goals. Bryce was scoring touchdowns. Like, and for me, like, part of, like, why I wanted to do that I wanted to see it, obviously, but I was like, the kids see me watching a Cowboy game on the weekend, and they kind of sit, and they're like, yeah, okay, Dad, they watch for a little while, then they go do something else. But I was like, they'll have so much more buy-in with what it is because they, like, know, like, now where it is. They got to run on the field. They got to see the locker room where the guys are. For Bryce, and his mind is always working. He's like, well, what do they do after halftime? Where do they, now he knows, like, oh, they go into the locker room. This is where they go. This is what it looks like. And it was just, oh, man, they had so much fun, and it was so easy to do it. And it was like, it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, what an experience, because that's a world-famous sports venue, and to actually be on the field is just, like the emotion that I just felt was like, wow, because you're like, Bryce was scoring touchdowns. Like, that's got to be so cool. Like, on Sundays, like, that's where these professional athletes cross that freaking goal line and score. I mean, that's just, how big is the screen above the field? Is it just?
Oh my! It's huge. it is just huge, and it's just crazy to look up. And when they said you could hook it up to anything, so they said when the Jonas Brothers did a concert there, the Jonas Brothers hooked their Xbox up to it, so they were up in a suite playing Xbox on the screen.
Oh my god!
Like, that's pretty awesome, right? That's pretty cool.
That's got to be tremendous.
And you'll appreciate this. So one of the things they told us was, they had just announced that the World Cup was going to be played partly in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And the stadium in Arlington won one of the bids for it.
Yeah.
And how they won the bid, so the seats in the stadium they can take out all the seats. They're not a rail system. They're not like fully mounted like an old stadium, so they can take all the seats out. Mm-hmm. So what they had to do to win the bid is they have to take out all the seats in the lower bowl portion, and they have to build a platform and then put the soccer field,
on top of it,
the soccer pitch on top of it. So, because the soccer field is wider than the football field, and they didn't have enough room on the side. So that's how they won the bid. Can you imagine how much that must cost?
Yeah,
but just to get the bid to say that they had the World Cup, like Jerry Jones, he spares no expense, man.
Yeah,
and it's proven. And the cool thing was, they're like, you can rent anything in the stadium, anything you want.
Yeah,
you want to rent the locker room for something, you can pay. Everything's got a price. Yeah, but you can rent any piece of that entire stadium whenever you want, as long as it's not during a game.
So Bryce's Sweet 16 is going to be on the field.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. I mean, whatever. It's awesome. Yeah, God, it was cool.
That's cool. I mean, those were. That was the big highlight of the road trip going to Nashville. Yeah. You guys slept in Little Rock Barbecue in Memphis and kind of got to Nashville. Yeah. What about any particular highlights stick out on the way home, or was it kind of just kind of?
I want to touch on one in Nashville before we get home. The Grand Ole Opry is the shit. That was so much fun. The kids loved it. I mean, Bryce and Kendall, they were just so, like, into it. Like, it was their first concert. They had 6 people come on the stage. They all did 2 or 3 songs. They had some newer artists that, like, you could hear their songs on the radio and they're like, oh, this is cool. And then again, they had some old bands that that played too. And that old band I was talking about, that the song that they recognized, they also did the soundtrack to Toy Story 2, Woody's Barnyard. So they played that and the kids were like, oh my God, we know this. And it's like, the Grand Ole Opry has so much history. And when you think about the people that have played there over the years, I mean, it really is just this cool old place. And that was probably the highlight of Nashville itself for me, was that. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, I've driven through Nashville. I've never actually stopped and spent any time there. The one question I have for you about Nashville, and it makes me, whenever I think of Nashville, because, if you listen to, country radio, whether it's Bobby Bones or one of these big country radio hosts, or you see pictures of Nashville, you had mentioned like a name like Jason Aldean's Steakhouse. I know a lot of the famous country stars have restaurants or bars or whatever down there. Are those moving bars where you sit at it and someone like drives around? Are those real? Are those real things? Like did you see any of those where you sit at the bar and it, like someone's pedaling it?
Oh yeah, dude, it's a pedal thing. It's like a bike thing, and you got like, I think it's like 5 or 6 people on each side, and you all pedal. You're pedaling, and you're just drinking. I mean, I'll tell you what though, man. And they had these big buses with open sides. People drive, and people just partying in the bus, and like there's a DJ and there's a bar in the back of the bus, and people just drive around. They had monster truck tours. That was something we wanted to do that we never got to because it was just so damn hot. They had golf cart tours. I mean, you name it, they had it. I mean, you could go there and spend an absolute fortune if you wanted to. I mean, I don't know how people go there. It was a lot of bachelor and bachelorette parties. I don't know how people afford to do it. I mean, the drinks, my dad and Denise went out for a drink one night after we had been back with the kids. And they had 2 drinks. It cost them $29 without tip at one of those honky tonk bars right there on Broadway. I mean, crazy expensive there.
How big, give me, because like I said, I've only driven through. How big is Nashville? Like the parts, like the popular part is, like you said, it's Broadway. Is it really just one street, or is there a bunch of streets?
Yeah.
That
I mean, it's really one street right there, Broadway. It's, I mean, maybe a half mile long. That's like the spot that everybody thinks of Nashville. Yeah, but outside of that, there's plenty more. But that's what people think of as the spot. But I'll tell you what, man. Some of the best food places we had were out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we ate 2 places that come to the top of my mind. Outside, there was some great breakfast places in downtown Nashville that were awesome. But like outside of that, we ate at a place just outside Bowling Green, Kentucky, which was the most American restaurant I have ever eaten in. Like it was amazing, and the food was incredible, and it cost like nothing. Mm-hmm. It was just like that, what you expect in middle America for like just a little local restaurant, and it was packed and it was awesome. And the other place was on our drive home. There wasn't much on our drive home. We took a little bit of a northern route through Oklahoma, northern Texas, New Mexico. There wasn't much there, but we stopped at this amazing place in Fort Smith, Arkansas, that was so good. And man, one of the things that really stuck out to me about the whole trip is how the pride in America is still so prevalent in the South. Like that was, I mean, obvious from the flags that were flying to the way people talked to just, I mean, it like all the stuff that's going on around us, this crazy shit you hear from all these liberal cities. Like to me, like, the heart of America is still so prideful, and like that was awesome to see and be a part of it. And like that was just so great.
Yeah, no, and to keep a country music theme to that, what you just said is like Jason Aldean, one of his famous songs is "Flyover States," and like it's true, those flyover states in the middle, they're the heartland of America. Like there is no doubt about it. People are they're more polite. They're
for sure.
They are blue collar. They're very welcoming people, and it's a major difference because if you look at the geographical aspect of the country, there's not very many major cities. I mean, take out Chicago, which is real more north than central, in the central part of the United States, and it is a lot of flyover stuff. It is a lot of long, open, flat driving roads with cornfields and farms, and it really is. But it's a different kind of people. But like you said, they're so proud to be American in those states that it's impressive for sure,
Yeah, it really was. It was great. I mean, all in all, dude, it was an amazing trip. We celebrated Kendall's birthday while we were there. So it was a blast. I had a great time spending time with my dad. Like you said, was just that's priceless. So
Yeah.
it was great. But now I know you went on vacation. You went to Shenandoah National Park, and you've got some other stuff coming up. So share what you've been doing and how that trip was, because I know that was true camping. I could have been glamping, but that was true camping. So
yeah, well, we like to stay at. I'm not a big expensive RV park type of person. Now, granted, there are nice RV parks, KOAs, and the place that we stayed at in Shenandoah was a very nice RV park. It had a pool for the kids and nice spot, full hookup. But I am much more of a rural camper. I like, we have a generator, we have solar panel on the roof of the camper. It's usually far less expensive to camp in state parks and whatnot. And we've done some state camp parking, but Shenandoah was like the highlight of our June. We wanted to get to Shenandoah because, as you know, we are national park hoppers. And now that we've been, now that we've been on the East Coast, we like to go to different national parks. So Shenandoah, we stayed for 3 nights. We stayed in Shenandoah, and now it's hard to understand for those that listen or live on the West Coast or in the western half of the United States when it comes to mountains. Shenandoah National Park is very mountainous, but they're East Coast mountains. And what I mean by that is there's nothing much more than 4,000 feet. There, you know what I mean? Where out in Arizona, where we lived in Tucson, you're sitting at almost 3,000 feet. That's where you live at, and then you only go up you only go up from there. But the beauty of Shenandoah National Park is what really got us. It is just, there's the Blue Ridge, the scenic parkway runs from the north to the south or south to north, whichever way you want to enter the park. And there is a midpoint entrance on the parkway. And you literally just drive on these beautiful winding roads, stone wall lined roads on both sides. And one thing I will say about the eastern half of the country when it comes to outdoors and camping, there is much more history on the East Coast than there is on the West Coast, because the West Coast is still pretty new. I mean, you're talking, 1900. I mean, I don't think Arizona became a state until like 1912 or something like that. So, there's so much more history on the East Coast, from the Civil War and from the, the Revolutionary War and the history of just everything out there. And Shenandoah is just really cool. It's more of I don't think you need to spend a lot of time there. If you wanted to do the whole park, you could do the whole park in a couple of days. It really depends on how much you want to drive, because like I said, the road is 100 miles long. So if you start at the south and go all the way to the north, and then you want to stop along the way, it's kind of a long drive. But the wildlife, we saw tons of wildlife. I mean, we were seeing deer all over the place. And another thing for you that camp or travel with pets, Shenandoah is one of the very few national parks that is dog friendly. So with Pepper, that's kind of a pain in the ass to have a dog when you go camping, because if you go to national parks and it's no dogs allowed, well, guess what? Your poor dog's got to sit in the camper or whatever. If you don't have a camper, good luck, because you're not going to leave a dog in a tent. You know what I'm saying? So of the 500 plus miles of hiking trails and trails in Shenandoah, only about 20 of them you're not allowed to bring your pet on. But the other, go ahead.
So you did that, and you just said you did a lot of hiking, and they have all those trails. Like, how did you determine? Because you sent me some great pictures, waterfalls and things like that. Did you look online first to see hey, these are the hot spots to go, or did you just kind of get to the park, talk to a ranger, and they kind of gave you some ideas, and you just kind of wung it?
Well, I probably pissed off 20 people behind me, because when I first pulled up to the park, I had like a 15-minute conversation with the ranger working the station where you pay to get in the park. Because we got there and we wanted.
You had a long conversation. I don't believe that.
Yeah. So we had gotten there and we wanted to. It was the first night we got there. We wanted to do a sunset, and we know Shenandoah is famous for their sunset. So I just had a conversation with the ranger. I'm like, "What's the best sunset lookout, sunset hike, yada yada?" And he gave us a list. He pulled out the map and did everything that you're supposed to do. So the first night, we had an unbelievable sunset hike, and then really just to sit on the tailgate of the truck and watch the sun go down. And then anyone that follows me on social media, you can see some of the most amazing pictures of the girls just sitting on this beautiful stone wall at 4,000 feet, and you can just see nothing but green rolling hills. But the main hikes that we really wanted to accomplish, we wanted to get to the highest peak in the park, and we also wanted to see water. After living in Arizona for 7 years, you miss water a little bit, rivers and streams.
That's for sure.
Waterfalls and lakes and things of that nature. So we wanted the best hiking for waterfalls. And we did, two that stand out to me, Hawksbill hiking is Hawksbill is the highest peak in the park, which was like 4,051 feet, which is crazy to say. It's only 4,000 feet. So we did that hike, and then we also did White Oak Falls, which was so cool. That was like a 5-mile hike, and you literally hiked alongside a waterfall, just rolling waterfalls the entire way. I mean, it was tremendous. And Shenandoah is centrally located, so you can get to it from a lot of different places. You're not that far from DC. You're not that far from Southern Virginia or Tennessee. Kentucky. You're really, West Virginia is right there. The Blue Ridge Mountains are a pretty long mountain range. But where we stayed in Shenandoah at the campground it's a little town called Luray, Luray, Virginia. And the cool thing about Luray is you can spend a week, 5-6 days there because there's other things to do there for kids. Because let's face it, kids get bored of hiking. Even my kids that are outside all day long every day, they do get bored and tired of hiking. Like they want to spend time in a pool or they want to spend time doing something else. So another awesome place there is a place called Luray Caverns. And it's, if you've ever been to any kind of cave or anything, it's legitimately caverns. You go down in and you're under the ground and there's all the cool rock formations on the ground, but they have a ropes course there and like all sorts of kid friendly activities at the caverns at the park itself. So there's tons of activity around that central area. And, we really loved it for the trip itself because you drive through so much history. You drive through Charlottesville. You drive through all these different towns in Virginia where like America was founded. Like you're like, the history around it was tremendous.
That's awesome. That's great, man.
Yeah.
So I followed you along and through the social media pictures, and you sent me some others, and it looked like you guys had a great time. And I mean, hey, that's the national parks. You keep checking them off the list. That's great. You're going to get all of them pretty soon.
That's our 13th national park in the last 2 years. So that's pretty.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's pretty good. And I'm like I said, I was pleasantly surprised with Shenandoah. I was kind of going in there like, oh man, it's an East Coast National Park. It's not the Grand Canyon. It's not Yellowstone, right? But I'll tell you,
sure,
it's far from the worst national park that I've been to. It's not at the top, but it's far from the bottom too. You know what I mean? And and alongside that, this has been a good summer. Obviously, a lot different. It's not a Tucson summer for the first one in 8 years, but it's we still being back on the East Coast like this, my sister's been down. We've had friends from Florida come up. We've had friends from South Carolina come up. Like, so, from that aspect, summer's been really cool because we've had a lot of visitors, and that, we got a couple more trips planned. I don't know if you guys have anything else planned for the rest of the summer, but we definitely have a couple more trips planned. We want to get to the beach and do a little beach camping this summer and then head down to South Carolina. There's a national park in South Carolina that we want to hit. It's only about a 3.5 hour drive from here. So if we could get to that one, that would be another nice box to check off,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we don't have anything else planned immediately for the summer. I mean, out here, kids go back to school the first week of August, so
yep.
That's fast approaching. So we did Disney earlier in the year. We did Nashville now, so we're chilling for a while. We do like to get to the beach, so if we play our cards right, we're hoping to get to San Diego in October.
That's your favorite. That's your favorite place on earth.
That's my most peaceful place, man. I'm at my zen. My zen is there. Like nothing better than sitting on the beach in San Diego to me. So hopefully in October we can make that happen. But going through some career transitioning stuff now, so we'll see if that plays itself out.
How about from a fitness standpoint? Where's your summer been? Let's touch on our topics. Let's touch on our faith. Let's touch on our fitness and stuff. How's that? Where you at there?
I'm in a good spot. At the end of last year, I was slipping hard, and I caught myself after Christmas, and I was like, wow, I've let this go. And I said to Casey the other night when we got back on our walk, because I lost a pound on vacation.
That's good.
Which for people who have struggled their weight, like that's hard. Like you go to places. For me, I'm a foodie. Like I like going and eating food and checking stuff out. Like, but I stayed really active. Now I did fail 75 hard while I was gone on the diet side of things. But here's the difference with me this year and living a full force life. And part of what like being a part of this has meant to me is the day we got back, July 4th, was day one again for me. I hopped right back on. And this is the first year. I mean, we're 6+ months now into the year. And I've just steadily gotten better and stronger and stuck with it. I've had days that I've faltered. no doubt about it. But the difference for me is that I've been able to hop back on and hop back on with full intensity.
Yeah.
Like in the past, I've been like, oh, I got to catch myself. And, I hop back on, but I'm not like really there. Like I'm there, man. I'm locked in. And yeah, just because I faltered, I had some stuff I shouldn't have had on vacation. So be it. But I'm back on now, and I'm back on 75 hard and doing the program the right way. And I feel good. I'm as active as I've ever been. And like I said, Casey's doing it with me now, and the kids get into it. So I feel pretty good there.
Yeah.
Now I know you just started 75 hard too.
Yeah, no, I'm on day 6. I started on July 2nd. And it's funny, I want to back up just for a second what you just said. You faltered, you fell off, but your intensity to get back on is important because I, as anyone knows on Instagram, I put a health tip of the day out every single day. It's when I wake up in the morning after I get my routine out of the way, I post a health tip. It could be from something as simple as drink more water or you name it. And today's health tip I heard from my coach yesterday when we had a coaching call, and he said goals are great. He said, but goals are a one-time thing, right? Like your goal is to lose 10 pounds, and then all of a sudden you fall back off because you hit your goal, and then that's that. He said systems and processes are what repeat wins. We talk about wins all the time, right, on this show and in general, right? A goal gets you a win, but then without a system in place or a process in place, you can't repeat that goal. So it's important what you said there is you're like, you know what? I faltered, but I have the intensity. I'm right back on it because right now there's a process that you're following. There's a system that you're following in 75 hard, and systems are how you repeat wins, right? If you do 75 hard the right way, as Andy always says, dude, that's 75 wins in a row. It keeps you in the groove where if you have a bad day and a loss, boom, you're right back into another win, right? So me being, go ahead. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, like up until that point where I faltered, I was 29 days in.
Yeah.
And I had a day where I faltered. Yeah. Okay. Well, now I'm back on. I've got another 75 days.
Yeah.
So for me, at the end of the day, I mean, that's 104 out of 105 days that I won.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's
that extends it. Just because I failed that, as long as you're getting back on and you're doing it and you're not letting time pass, it's just built. It's continuing to building. It's changing your life, and that's ultimately, like you said, it's not just about a singular goal. Because I've done that. I've lost 50 pounds, and it's like, oh yeah, I did it. Now what? No, it's about changing your life, changing the way that you live every single day, and that's what, to me, I've noticed this year is a change in me.
Yeah, no, and I'm back on 75 hard. A friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, is doing 75 hard, and he was asking me about it and whatnot, and I said, you know what? I've already done 75 hard once this year. I did it. This is my second year in a row where I started right at Finley's birthday and then boom, went through March. And then last year I did phase 1 and phase 2. And I failed because I didn't even start phase 3. And the way the program works is you got to do 75 hard, 1, 2, and 3, and end 3 on your anniversary date of starting the original 75 hard. So I didn't do that. And my lame ass excuse was, well, phase 3 for me is Christmas and New Year's and blah, blah, blah. And I found every excuse in the book to not do it last year. So this year I would have found myself in that same predicament. So with a friend of ours that wanted to do 75 hard and he wants to start in July, I'm like, this is perfect. I can do 75 hard. That'll be 150 days of the first 6, out of the first 200 days or whatever that I did 75 hard. And then I can do phase 1, 2, and then I can actually finish phase 3, by July 4th next year, which is a goal of mine for the 2022-2023 calendar years to finish the Live Hard program. So by restarting now and being able to finish midsummer next year, I can avoid being a little bitch when it comes time to doing phase 3 around the holidays.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. And now, I mean, I'm a few days behind you now, but this is great. We get to go through that process together. And it's been good. The fitness side of things has been good. Now, how about the financial side?
Yeah, we've been good. Just, plugging along here. As everyone knows, my career in the mortgage business is still going strong. It's a tough industry to be in right now. So, I have a lot of just financial talks with Dave in general about stuff. I just had a conversation about a retirement account yesterday with Dave. And I encourage you guys to reach out to Dave because he's done a lot for me. But in terms of financially, we're just kind of plugging along right now. We're kind of like in just a pattern, right? Business isn't great. And, but it's also not bad. So we've really kind of curbed the budget a little bit more to make it more, in line with the times that we're living in right now with inflation and things of that nature, things being more expensive and less income coming in. So financially, we're good. It's just, it's a slower time right now for sure, but that's for anybody in my industry. It's not an excuse. It's just in general. But financially, we're good. Anytime I'm calling Dave to ask him about retirement accounts, I mean, I must be in an okay spot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How about you from the finance side?
Yeah, I mean, things are a little tight right now. Like I said, going through a bit of a career transition, stepping out of the job that I was doing for a variety of circumstances, but moving into real estate full time. I do have some TV directing coming up this fall, which I'm excited about as well. But yeah, it's kind of batting down the hatches time right now. Casey's going through a career transition as well. She left teaching. She got paid through the summer, so we're running low on time for that too. But it's kind of a scary time with inflation where it is and everything. But I know at the end of the day, kind of living the principles that we live by will be good. We've got an emergency fund there for a reason, and that's what's going to help us kind of push through. So, you kind of spin this back around. It's like years ago when I had debt, I never would have been able to do this. I mean, I would have been freaking out right now. But right now, like, I'm not freaking out as much because I know we have that safety net there, and I don't have payments going out. I don't have payments on a car. I don't have payments for all these different things going out. So it makes it easier to kind of go through that process and gives you time to really decide what you want to do and how you want to go about it. So financially, yeah, it's tight, but we're in a good spot.
Yeah, that's good. Like I said, that's why, dude, it's so important. And that's why you stress those principles so much. Whether you follow Dave Ramsey like Dave does, or you kind of hybrid Dave Ramsey like I do in a sense, there's so much truth to, cash is king, debt is dumb. Like, I know if you hear it all the time and people they brush it aside, but it's times like this where it's going to get real hairy economically in this country, where, listen, if you don't have debt and you don't have credit cards, especially going out every month, you're going to be in a much better position to battle and survive the battle than you would be if you were worried about paying a bunch of freaking debt off. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, no doubt about it.
Yeah. What about faith? Cool. Anything new in the faith? I mean, we tried out a new church this past week. I mean, that's new.
That's good.
As you guys know, part of my morning routine, I read my Bible every morning, and I love reading it and interpreting it in my own ways, and reading scripture and things of that nature. And since we left Tucson, we haven't really been to church, religiously is a terrible pun, but like just in general, we haven't, consistently been going to church. And Andine's aunt and uncle had invited us to their church this past weekend to check it out, and
nice. We
tried it out, and it's a smaller, more community church, so I feel the vibe of the community, which is cool. Yep. And the coolest thing about it is because my girls see me read the Bible every day, and then Caroline Madison essentially came up to me and like, we want to go to church this week. And I'm like, sweet, because just like anything in life, you can't force things down your kid's throat, right? I can't, I can't tell them sit down and read the Bible. What the hell? They're just going to be reading words on paper. You know what I mean? So, that's really the only difference, and I'm kind of in a feeling out process right now of potentially a new church, or, do I just find the nearest Catholic church like my whole life and just start going there every Sunday for a 7 a.m. mass? Or do I want to kind of put my feelers out there and realize that as I'm getting older, my faith is evolving in the way I interpret things and read into things and how I feel,
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And we've got a church here, the one that you used to go to, you turned us on to it. Yeah. So that's the one that we go to, and where the kids do their religious education. And they got they still got the main priest, but now there's a new priest coming in because the other one had left. So we're seeing how that is, because we like the main priest, but he doesn't usually do the masses that we go to. So we're trying to see if maybe there's other options out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And anyways, well, I think this has been a great episode. I mean, a little midsummer classic episode, just learn about Nashville, learn about some national parks, learn about some camping, and, how to not do a road trip from Dave, and how to, so let's, what's the book recommendation today, Dave?
It is The Power of One More by Ed Mylett.
Yeah.
And this was a good one. I read this on vacation, and this is a great book, man. I had just gotten it. It just came out, and it's well worth the read. And he's written another book called Max Out Your Life. I haven't read that one, but this one's really great because it talks about what it is, the power of one more, about doing one more thing, making, if you're in business, that one extra phone call. It's about, fitness, doing that one extra rep or that one extra set or whatever it may be, doing one extra, and how those small things will compound over time and really show the benefits to you and really make a big, big difference. I mean, if you make one more business phone call every day, who knows how many deals that might turn into over the course of a year and impact your bank account. And, on your fitness side, doing one more set, how much that's going to impact you physically. Yeah. So it really is a great book. And there's a lot of great leadership principles in it about getting to know the people that you work with, getting to know your staff. If you're a leader, how to be a better leader, get to understand what makes people go. Everybody doesn't have the same motivation. Not everybody's motivated financially or through recognition or through extra responsibilities. Like, everybody has those different pieces. So it's understanding more about the people that help you, so that you can get the most out of them and that they can get the most out of you. And it really is, it's a great read. I got turned on to Ed Mylett through Andy Frisella and his podcast. He's part of the Arete Syndicate. And it's a really good book, and I'd recommend everybody check it out.
Yeah, Ed's great. I know a couple of guys that work for one of his companies, and he's a genuine dude through and through. Will give you the shirt off his back. He doesn't, it doesn't matter how rich he is, and he doesn't look down on people. And he's a master motivator if you follow him on social media. And I love that, the power of one more. I love the one more thing because, like, I look at everything from a number standpoint. It's what I do for a living. And the way I look at it, just a quick example, if you do push-ups every day, or like I preach doing your daily routine or your daily standard every day, just think if you did an extra 10 push-ups a day, that's an extra 300 push-ups a month. That's an extra 3,600 push-ups a year. And it takes you 10 or 15 seconds to do an extra set of 10 push-ups, right? Or if you run, I'm not saying run an extra mile, because that is a big difference. If you run, a mile is a little bit longer, but if you run an extra 1/10 of a mile every time.
Right. And that's what I try and do. Normally I'd be looking at my watch and I'm like, all right, I've hit the mark I wanted to, but now I look and I look in the distance for either a telephone pole or the next street, whatever it is. I'm like, I'm going to run to that now. Yeah. And that's what the book did to me. And think about it. If you add an extra 1/10 of a mile every time you go out and run, I mean, every 10 days you're adding a mile. Yep. That's a lot of mileage over the course of the year. So it really, it's an interesting take. And one of the other things too, he talks a lot about in this book as a dad and his impact as a dad. And then the relationship he had with his father. So it's a good book for full force fathers, because there's a lot of connections there in addition to it. So go check it out.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And, anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys listening in. Guys, gals, however you're listening, we really, really appreciate it. Another episode in the books. We'll talk to you again next week. Dave, take us home.
Yeah, everybody get out there. Continue to live the full force life. Enjoy your summer. It is summer. Enjoy it. Enjoy the time with the kids. And we will talk to you soon.